to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of KevinMD. Rate and review the show at kevinmd.com/rate. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/follow. Today in the show, we have Sirosh Masuood. She is a psychiatrist, and she wrote the KevinMD article, When Primary Care Helps a Psychiatrist. Sirosh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin, for inviting me to your platform. I'm really glad to be a part of it.
We'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and journey to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm a psychiatrist by profession, based in Maryland right now. I started my psychiatric training in 2007 in New York, a very busy hospital affiliated with Mount Sinai. And then I completed my fellowship in CL Psychiatry, which at time was LIJ North Shore System. It's called Northville Health System at this time. And since then, I have worked different jobs. I have worked in an outpatient in a hospital with a private group, nursing home consultation, hospital consultation. And now I have my own practice. In addition to medication management, I also offer TMS. I also provide therapy for my colleagues' physicians. So that's where I am right now.
So it sounds like you've practiced psychiatry in different venues. So after reflecting on your experience, what would you say are some of the challenges and rewards of practicing psychiatry today?
So since I have this vast experience treating with a different type of population, it was very interesting how the socioeconomic status affects your mental health, how your professional life affects your mental health. I have worked with chronically mentally ill. I have worked with highly educated professionals. So that's a very wide range of psychiatric disorders and mental health. And I'm glad that I have this experience and I can use this at my private practice now. So it's very interesting, and every setting was different for me. And I learned different skills in every setting. So working with not only patient population, when I worked with a private group, it helped me establish my own practice. When I worked in a hospital setting, it helped me establish the relationships and the importance of the other physicians and role of other physicians in patient care. So as a whole, it was an interesting journey up to now.
So it goes without saying that we need more behavioral health specialists. Now, for those medical students who may be listening to this podcast, tell us, what do you love most about your job?
So I like that I can connect with the patient on a very personal level. So mental health is very broad. For a medical student, when they rotate through only inpatient setting, I tell them experience outpatient as well. It's completely different. You have to find your fit. My interest was on the medical setting, so that's where I specialized in. So for med students, I also tell them to shadow someone or work somewhere in the hospital to see what consultation work is like. The inpatient work is very different from outpatient work versus consultation versus nursing home consultation. So it's very wide. It has so many different avenues to choose from. It's not only chronically mentally ill. It's not only depression. It's not only bipolar. There's so much that you can do in this field. It's just you have to find your style. You have to find your interest and work in that direction.
All right, let's transition into KevinMD article that you wrote. It's titled, When Primary Care Helps a Psychiatrist. Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read your article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
Yeah, so I would start with, I always wanted to write, but I never had enough time. I always was busy, work, home. There was no time. So now that I have my own practice, not only I can manage my time better, my stress level is down. So I'm able to work on things what I always wanted to do. And that's how I started writing with this article. So what I captured in the article was pretty much my struggle with somewhat with my training and my childcare needs and my kids and my family. So when I started my training, my son was 1.5 years old. My husband is also a physician. He, at that time, was a fourth-year resident. Thankfully, he didn't have to take any calls, but my schedule was Q3, Q4, like every third night, every fourth night. So very busy program. We were new in New York. We didn't have any family support, very limited socialization. We knew only the residents from the hospital, so no support very much. So I had my challenges with the childcare since I started the training. It was not easy. During my first year, I questioned several times that was it the right time to start the training? Should I have waited another year? So, it was tough doing it all by myself and my husband. And when I finished the training and started the fellowship, I also had my daughter, 6 months old. So it was somewhere between the 4th year and the fellowship that I decided that, I have to work part-time. My husband has always worked a full-time job, so finances was not an issue. But I felt one of us have to be more flexible. One of us have to be more available to the family, for the kids. And, that's how I decided that one of us, it will be me, to do part-time. So the first job I took was at where I trained. It was an outpatient, very busy outpatient practice. And I signed up for 24-hour work week schedule. And all my attendings and my colleagues, they started questioning me. You were not offered a full-time job. There's so much need. You should ask. You should negotiate. So I found myself explaining to them that I want to do part-time.
Yeah.
It's my choice. So that was also interesting that everyone is in a different, everyone has their own life, their own stages of life, and their needs are different. But as I continued my schedule, somewhere between 24 hours, 20 hours every job, there were mostly the women physicians who actually appreciated. They validated that, yeah, of course, they envied me that they cannot do it for whatever reasons. So I got my validation from mostly women physicians. So after New York, moved to Maryland again, kept my work part-time in different settings. I started out, the one that I settled at was hospital consultation work. I loved my job. It was moderately busy hospital, but I think the main issue was I was the only psychiatrist in the hospital. So I signed up for 20-hour work week. I was going daily from 9 to 1, 1:30 kind of schedule. So the goal was to pick up my kids daily and take care of the rest of the stuff. But, it started building up. As we all know, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I would be answering phone calls till like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. while I'm on the road, taking care of the after school activities and picking up the kids and all that. And I would always be on the phone answering, texting, or, weekends, vacations, I was available. So I think, if I look at the broader picture, the problem was that I was the only one in the hospital. So the responsibility was, I felt I was responsible. So there was no covering physician. When I went on vacation, although there was someone covering, but still, since everyone had my cell phone, if I didn't respond, they would text me.
Yeah.
So, it kind of started building up, and I didn't mind it. I didn't even realize. I was enjoying, as I said, I love my work. I never complained about my work. I thought this is the, expectation. This is the demand of the job, and I have to do it. So, and at home, things were not getting easier. My kids, more stuff was happening. So that I was not getting help there either. So I started to get exhausted. I started having all these somatic symptoms, headaches, shoulder pains, non-specific body pains. I was tired, fatigued, but I was functioning fine. So when I had my annual physical with my primary care, I was convinced either I have hypothyroidism, I have vitamin D deficiency, I have anemic, I have all of the above. So I told my primary care to get me tested, and she ordered everything, but she told me, do you plan to cut down on your hours? And I was looking at her, I was like, I'm working 20 hours per week. I cannot cut even further. And I didn't even discuss about my work with her. So that also surprised me. So I came home, all my labs came back normal. And then I was like, why did she say that? So I started looking at my work life schedule. So on paper, yes, I was doing 20-hour work per week, but no, it was not 20, it was up to more. And then it's the stress, right? If you're getting a phone call at 5 p.m., it's not for a regular thing. It's like some emergency is going on.
Yeah.
And they need immediate intervention.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekend, since there's no one else, there's in the hospital setting, the psychiatric emergencies are different. So they need the answer there and then. So I would be curbsiding on the weekends. So
Right.
it was not a 20-hour job anymore. So I, started sorting out things. I started looking at my schedule. I started setting boundaries
Mm-hmm.
at work. And I started getting my kids involved at that time. Whatever they could do, I asked them to start helping out. And it's not only they were helping me, it also helped them become an individual, independent individual. And so, started sorting things out, basically. And so this is actually pre-COVID. I'm not even talking about COVID pandemic time. That I will probably write on another day as well. But it helped sorting things out. My stress level came down. I was less tired.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how basically I came up with writing this, because I wanted to share, and I feel that a lot of physicians, colleagues do experience that and do not realize what's happening.
So one of the things that you mentioned was setting boundaries, both at work and at home. Give me an example of how you set boundaries at work.
So my hours were 9 to 1 every day. So before, what I used to do was, like, if I get a consult at like 12:50, I would do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the consult takes good 45 minutes, initial consult. So I started to sort those things out. Unless it was an acute emergency, like acute emergency, I did not take the consult after 1 at 12:50, because there's no way I will finish at 1. I stopped taking phone calls on the weekends. Weekdays, I still continued, because if I saw a patient and it had some issue, so I had to answer. But weekends, I stopped curbsiding. I stopped taking the phone calls. I made sure that I go on vacation and I send like 100 emails to everyone, like a voicemail that I'm not available. So, to make everything aware. And that kind of trained everyone, everyone realized, okay, she is not on call on the weekend. And then also the system also then, realized that there's a need for additional coverage. There's a need for a weekend coverage. So I think at work, this helped.
Now, when you set those boundaries, how difficult was it for you to do that? And did you get any pushback? Did you get any people to say, hey, you used to do this, but now you're not doing it anymore? How difficult was it for you to set those boundaries at work?
I think for me to say no to a consult was harder. It needed a lot of repetition. Okay, this is not an urgent consult. It can be seen tomorrow. We always have 24 hours to see a consult. Anyways, the patient is not getting discharged today. So, it was a lot of education. Did I get pushback? Not really, because they understood. I would say they probably were surprised that I didn't pick up the phone on the weekend. But on Monday, if someone mentioned that, I decided to say that, no, I was not on call. And that was the fact.
I hear everything that you're saying, because similar to you, I work part-time. I work about 20 hours a week doing internal medicine, primary care, and I empathize with exactly what you're saying. When I'm on call, you get phone calls from the nursing home all hours of the day, and even when you're off, just having that pager, you're not really off, having that stress of potential a call that you need to intervene on. So I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think it took a few months for the hospital to adjust, but I don't recall having any like pushback, because per contract, I was doing more than what was expected. So I did not. So, and I had, basically I had to stand my ground. I had to stand my ground, basically.
We're talking to Sirosh Masuood. She's a psychiatrist, and she wrote the KevinMD article, When Primary Care Helps a Psychiatrist. Sirosh, I think that your message will resonate with a lot of physicians in terms of potentially cutting back hours as a way to kind of solve some of the issues that's dealing with the great resignation when it comes to physicians. There's a lot of burnout, of course, and it's very difficult to practice medicine full time, because even though you're only working 40 hours a week, that 40 hours is really close to 100 hours a week when you take call and all the paperwork and bureaucracy. So for those physicians who are interested in setting boundaries, cutting down, After reflecting on your experience, what kind of advice can you give to these physicians?
So I would say you have to prioritize your needs.
Mm-hmm.
What applies to me may not apply to someone else. So you have to prioritize what's right for you. What are your needs? What are your family needs? What kind of financial responsibility do you have? What is your support? Do you have family who you can rely on? Or can you, financially, you're stable, you can outsource a lot of responsibilities at home so that not everything comes down to your shoulder. And then again, the boundary setting everywhere. You're one person. You can be at one place at one time. So we don't have to challenge ourselves. Although I think with me also, that's what I did. I took pride in that, yay, I'm a champion, I'm doing it all. And I did it all, but at the expense of exhaustion and physical symptoms. So whenever you interview for a job, I would say you have to be very clear what your needs are, what your family needs are, and negotiate. See if the job is right for you. You don't have to take the job just because. So for this job also, I negotiated. The job was a full-time job. It was a combination of consultation work and a PHP work. And before I went in for interview on the phone, on an introductory call, I asked them, would you consider part-time? And then they asked me, why are you concerned about your family? And I said, yes, I have small kids. I'm not intending to do full-time. If you are going to be flexible about it, then I can come and interview. And they were very nice about it. They accommodated my hours, they accommodated whatever I asked for at that time.
And my final question, what are some of your take-home messages that you want to leave with the KevinMD audience?
So I would say nothing is more important than your health. If you're taking care of yourself, you can be a better doctor, you can be a better parent, better partner, or whatever your role is. So self-care comes first. So be aware of your needs. Recognize what your body is telling you. If you're having symptoms just like what I described I was having, it's your body beeping. It's giving you alarm. It's giving you signals. So stop. Take a break, analyze, reorganize, sort things out, and then restart. We do not need to tough it out.
Sirosh, thank you so much for sharing your time, story, and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you very much.